Hello and welcome back to Satisfactory. This is Pixel Perfect episode 54, and I am, as always, your host, Volcata. Yes, today we are going to return to our project that we were working on last episode, which of course is the Fused Modular Frame. We did that crazy one belt strategy for the entire supply line for the modular frames, and I'll tell you, it took some time to get that whole thing up and running, but it is humming along beautifully. And so today we are going to have those products, along with the encased industrial beams that are being produced right next door, brought back to our base so that we can feed them into our heavy modular frame manufacturing and then bring it all together to make fused modular frames. And we're going to do that here at the base at our manufacturing hub. But that is not the first thing I want to address for today. First thing I want to tackle is the next step of the space elevator. Now, every so many episodes, we unlock another thing related to the space elevator, and we go and we start the process because we do them on the exact numbers. But if you recall, the current step is a massive one. And so over many, many episodes, we've been working on the same product. And we are ready for the next step of it. So let's cut to the break, and I will see you guys over in our elevator manufacturing area. I'm back to Christmas land. If you didn't see the series during Fixmas, you might want to go back and check it because that's Santa's workshop there, and quite proud of it. Quite proud of it. Unfortunately, its front yard has become a little messy, making fireworks and whatnot, trying to get a bunch of them done before the end of the season. We'll just park right here. But also, this area is our manufacturing for our space elevator parts. Originally we used to do them back at home, just a little side thing, but at this point, well, it's a little more demanding. And of course, I'm a crazy person, and I like to do everything on exact numbers when it comes to the space elevator, because I don't put those as a regular, manufacturing and then off in the sink and whatnot. I only make what we need for the space elevator. And our current goal is 4,000 assembly director systems. And that's what we have been slowly gearing our way towards. Now, if we look at the assembly director system, I'm going to go down the rabbit hole here. It requires adaptive control units, and that's, let's see, 2 for 1. So we need 4,000 assembly director systems. That means we need 8,000 adaptive control units and 4,000 supercomputers, because 1 for 1. But if we go to the adaptive control unit, which we need 8,000 of, we needed 15 automated wiring for every 2, so that's 7.5 per. That turned into 60,000 automated wirings. And every one of those takes 20 cable, which turned out to be, I think it was 1.2 million cables. And that's what this was right here. We stored 1.2 million cables before starting the manufacturing of it. And over there was our massive cable manufacturing facility. In fact, as you can see, it's all just going into the junker now. But, when that got done, we set all this up, and all the other side things were already being made at home, and so we had come over here and stored them, except for, of course, the stators. The stators, I mentioned last episode that we had co-opted the encased industrial beam manufacturing, the supplemental one, to make stators, and this is where it was all coming to and storing here. But all of that is now more or less done, and I say more or less because, these probably have some leftover things that are not balanced, right? Because we're doing multiple different machines. Let's just clear out some inventory space. Actually, let's do this real quick. Because what we're going to do is we're going to need to, because again, we're doing exact numbers, we're going to need to make sure that we have all of this being used, you know, to come up with the full numbers. There we go. We'll just dump the rest of them in here. Let this bad boy finish off the production. Probably should have. And that will be the last of the automated wirings that we need. So I'm going to not worry about this one for now. It'll go to our storage, but as we can see here, this is all of the automated wiring that we need, minus what's left in that one machine. Oh, ran out of power range. That's all right. So we needed, let's see here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 5, so it's 25. 25 by 2,400 per. That's 60,000. That's exactly how many we need. So this one right here should come up just a little bit shy of being full because we have some overhead on the conveyors. But we should confidently have exactly the 60,000 we need. That means our next step is the adaptive control unit, which is going to require a bunch of circuit boards, a bunch of heavy modular frames, which is kind of ironic because we're upping our heavy modular frame production right now, and a bunch of computers. However, we previously did the math for all of that. We prepared for that whole thing. And over here, we already have the exact numbers for all of those already in place. So it's only going to be a matter of setting up some manufacturers and just connecting all of these over here somewhere and bringing all those over and starting the next phase of production for this product. Of course, we'll store all of those, the 8,000 adaptive control units, and then later we'll come back and we'll reset these assemblers to make the final product, the assembly director systems, which we can export to a station and send back to the space elevator. We've got plenty of other things to do, so we just let the stuff run in the background, and I kind of do this to an extreme to illustrate that even though the numbers are huge for the space elevator projects, we have so much other things that we can do, or if you're playing the game, so many other things you can be doing that if you start these early, you don't need to mass overclock everything and overwhelm it all to get to those numbers quickly, because it can be running in the background while you're playing the game and doing everything else for your factory. And this is just my way of illustrating kind of to an extreme point that, I mean, 1.2 million, 60,000, all that stuff, doing all stages one at a time, we're still going to have it done way before we need to be able to activate the space elevator. But I'm going to run some lines, throw down some assemblers, and get the next part of the project started. All right, it's more or less set up here to start running. Now, yeah, we only did 4 manufacturers just because I didn't feel like hooking more of them up. Running the belts for manufacturers is kind of a pain. I mean, sure, I could use the blueprint, but not really, not for this kind of complexity. That's fine. I mean, we're only producing, 8,000 products at 1 per minute? I think this comes out to like 32 hours, something like that. Let's see here. We said 8,000 product. Right. We're doing 4 machines, so it's only 2,000 minutes, 60 minutes an hour, 33 hours, right? So barely over a day of playing. Oh, autosave, give me just a moment. There we go, autosave complete. You may have picked up from watching over time that I don't like moving things between containers manually. That's what belts are for. So I've transferred all of the products that we're going to need over to this area, just via belts. You know, pay no attention to them passing through things. They are temporary. They don't count. And I think, yeah, looks like we got a little bit more still going. That's fine. We don't need them all to be here immediately. We should all be powered up, ready to go. A little bit of that, a little bit of that. And I guess this guy's going up to here. And reach all the way up here. There we go. So the next step, which is the second to last step, the penultimate step of the current product, has begun. And I don't know how many adaptive control units stack, you know, to fill up a container. So I don't know how many containers we need for 4,000. So I'll just have to wait until one set of these produce, you know, one full stack of them, and then I can do the math and determine, you know, how many of these that we're going to need to stack up to store our 8,000 adaptive control units. But it's fine. We're going to just leave this, forget about it, like we did all this stuff for a few episodes, and you know, come back to it when it's ready. But let's get to setting up our Fused Modular Frame stuff. We need to get our trains running, and we need to adapt our stations at home to receive the products. So let's get home. So here we are back at home, and our large station that we set up because, you know, we knew that being that this is our central hub, our warehouse, that eventually we would probably have multiple trains coming through here. And today we are going to really take advantage of that because we need to bring in the nitrogen gas, which is going to be in 2 cars, and we need to bring in the encased industrial beams that are going to supplement our supply here, as well as the modular frames, which also is going to supplement that supply. Now, the little bit of a challenge that we're running into is that at the nitrogen plant and at the manufacturing over there, they are using the front 2 slots in both cases. So we can't use the same station for both trains. But that's okay. We have the front 2 slots available on both of these. Now, what that also means is that since these stations are already actually actively in use, I need to sit around and intercept every train that comes through here currently and check the schedule on them to make sure that I have isolated what they can load and what they can unload so that they don't accidentally drop off stuff in the stations that we don't want them to. And that's just going to take a little bit of time. You know, I have so many trains running around at this point that, you know, you lose track, you know, you lose track. But mostly these are just, you know, unloading back here, so those trains probably don't have any cars on the front anyway. And there's nothing that's going to be picked up from here. But still, it's a good practice to, every time you change things, to make sure all of your trains are using those stations are up to date and they are set to specifically only load and unload what you want. So I'm going to wait here a moment for some trains to come through, and then I'll bring you guys back and show you the process of just being safe and making sure these things don't crash and burn once you start adding more function to the stations. All right, we have our first contestant showing up. I'm just setting these as they come along. Oh, no. Stop. Turn off. Cancel docking. Okay, I just set these 2 stations to unload, and I want to make sure that, okay, we didn't cancel in time, but it looks like we're safe. Let's edit. We are at home mid. All right, excellent. So apparently I had done a good job ahead of time. So all of these were set to what we're going to unload here. And this way, in this case, you know, we said that we didn't think there was anything that they would have in the front. I was incorrect, and this is the point of being safe about it. These were set to unload, and these are full of quick wire. So this would have had unloaded quick wire. My goodness, yeah, this is our big quick wire train. and that would have been a mess. So fortunately, we had this one set correctly. Turn it back on. Let it mosey on its way. This side is going to be a little bit less of an issue because these are the fluid platforms, and we're not going to have fluids in anything else, but we still want to maintain, proper protocol. But I'm going to continue this. I saw that one come in real quick, so I wanted to unpause it real quick to show you guys what I was talking about. And here comes another train. I'm guessing this is our Aluminum Express train coming from the Illuminati. All right, we're not going to bother turning it off. Just home. Excellent. All right, the unload's already set. We're telling it not to load anything. Perfect. We're not actually bringing aluminum sheeting here anymore because that's all going to the battery manufacturing, but that's all right. This is an important train because we will be needing that encased, or the aluminum casings, as part of our Fused Modular Frame production. So excellent. All right, well, that's 2 trains. I'm going to sit here for another minute, real quick. Like I'm connecting, you see the pipes and everything down, preparing anyway. I don't know if those are the only 2 trains we have dropping off here. So let me get this set up and start running the belts under the station where they're going to need to go. And then we will set up the trains that we need to bring all the product here. All right, so we're experiencing some growing pains. We need to get modular frames in this window, and we need to get the encased industrial beams in this window. These are the supplementals, right? This is the original source that's coming from our steel manufacturing way over there. And then our modular frames are coming from, the facility we looked at last episode. And they're on, that's the heavy modular frames. They're in there somewhere. They're on the last belt on the other side. There we go. And they're going through and they're coming down. And that's how this warehouse is designed. But, we planned ahead by having a secondary input potential in case we needed to import from, lands far and wide. And that's what we are doing and we've been doing. The problem is that it's, I've never been happy with this. It's kind of shameful how messy this is. This is how it always has come in. The products come in on a belt over there, and they go through a bunch of smart splitters. You can see there they are going, from a recent drop off, and they go into their prospective windows. And then I can't even fly over this because there's not enough room. Let's see if we can get through here. Stop yelling at me. And basically they make it to an end, right? And then they boomerang back and around, and they snake their way through, and eventually they go into the overflow goes into the awesome sink. This looks very much like they're going the wrong direction. It's an optical illusion. They are not coming out of the sink. I don't know what it looks like to you guys, but it looked to me like it's going backwards. Anyway, this is just a mess, and I've reached kind of peak capacity for doing this, and it needs to be redone. It just needs to be cleared out and redone. I've never been happy with it, and now that we're beyond our reach, I was trying to come up with something else where I could send one off of the final end right there, and then it would go through there, but then we still need overflow, so it has to come back. It would just, no, we're not doing this. So we did an experiment, a fun experiment last episode with our one belt to rule them all. And you know what? We learned from that. There were some lessons learned that I didn't talk about. But I think that we've learned enough from them that we can do the same over here. Just grab our smart splitters and move our way through here. Not easy. And just do every window on one massive chain. It doesn't look like this can match, but See right there, we can actually belt between them. And I think we do just one solid roll the whole way down, and then our overflows on the end. And that way we don't have to keep, I mean, I always have to try to shoehorn something in, and you can see there's a missing spot there, and where's that going to come from? We'd have to put maybe another splitter here. It's mess. It's mess, and it's bad, and I'm done with it. So I'm going to tear all this out, and I'm going to upgrade the system to use our new one belt rules them all strategy. And it's going to require some careful upgrading. This is going to be a lot of work. This is going to be a lot of work because I have to make sure all of these are Mark V belts on the interior. And I'll explain why. We'll go back to where we were last episode, because there was a change I had to make after the episode was made to make it all work just absolutely perfectly. And that lesson is what's going to make this be reliable. So let me get this upgraded and show you the nice, clean, new final product. All right, if I have this set up right, then all I need to do is connect the line. I am nervous about this, and I probably should have rotated that one. The aluminum products are their own case. We're not going to talk about that. But everything else, I believe, is ready. Incorrect. And unfortunately, all my, incoming stuff is backed up now because this has taken quite some time. And of course, I had to, disconnect all of it before I could start building it because the belts were all in the way. Left is going to be overflow, area limiters. Okay. Sink or swim? That's correct to do the S turn. It is not. We'll back it up in a moment here, right? And that's, you know what? That's fine. I can give her some rubber in my inventory. That's okay. Can't have too much rubber. Oh, that looks better. Perfect. Okay, so now this should all be hopefully filtering through properly, so we shouldn't see any rubber on any of these lines except for the rubber line, wherever that is. There it is. Fortunately, I had put these little labels on everything, so that one's not in use right now. And the ones that don't have one are also not in use. But once this gets caught up, now we're using a ton of rubber here, so it's going to take time for that to get caught up. But we'll probably run out of rubber on the line before we fill up the storage, because the station is probably way over full at this point from multiple attempts to drop off materials. Probably backing up everything. But Mark V belt's the fastest we got. This is our one belt solution. This also means that we can piggyback on this belt, because this belt usually ends up dry because the cycle time of the train coming here to drop off stuff is long enough for the station to fully empty out. So there's no problem with us piggybacking on this belt to bring in our modular frames and our encased beams. In fact, I don't think that we're even going to bring them down here. Like, we could put a merger on here. Or we can do like we did up here, or we can just chain belts to the input. But I think I'm going to do a merger just to make sure some of those products get in, because if I don't put a merger, then these, if we have bad timing on the trains arriving, these would all dump into here, then this might be full when the other train comes to drop off its stuff. So I think we're going to go ahead and just do a merger. This is no longer in use. So, let's put it above. Do a nice little ceiling mount. We're gonna just guess whether or not that's at the right place. It's hard to place the ceiling mounts right because we don't have the markings on the floor to count with. I think that's over by 1. There we go. Very good. Unfortunately, this is going to be kind of a guesstimation on the splitter. Oh, ground. I want to get lined up, or the merger. Okay. Mark 5. Excellent, excellent. And we will, since we're bringing in both of these on the same train, the delivery time is not going to be an issue. Instead of doing that, we'll do an output to an input. And that will probably be okay. We'll monitor it, but I think that'll be fine, and then that'll just go down there. And it'll all get merged in. So that's good. We're done with the encased beams and the modular frames, assuming that our new splitter array is working properly. And all we need to do is run some piping, and we'll figure out where we're going to do that. I think we have a little gap under here because of the spine. So we'll probably run the piping through this opening because we're going to do our manufacturing down in our manufacturing area. I want to see if this is working. Still going, right? There's kind of a lot of back. Yeah, we're back to rubber. So this is going to take a while to get caught up, but I'm going to watch it because I want to see this get caught up and make sure that leftover products overflow properly to our new sink over here. Because if anything makes it here, then that means all of these are properly connected and they're all set to an overflow of some type, because it'll be easy to miss any one of these. But I'm going to check these, and I'm going to start running piping for the nitrogen, and then we'll look to make the building for the blenders and stuff for the fused modular frames. Actually, before we get to piping, real quick, like I did say, I wanted to show you a lesson learned, because we're still talking about the one belt to rule them all strategy. And I had mentioned in the last episode that it's important, in fact vitally important, that these are smart splitters, not programmable splitters, and that they fill up the machine one at a time. I mean, a programmable splitter can do the same, but it would be pointless in this one. We don't want to set a programmable splitter to go, screws out both sides to round robin the screws to each machine, in a traditional manifold. But instead, we want to fill each machine up completely before going on to the next one. And that it was important that we did that. However, I didn't think about or point out another aspect, something we've talked about just using regular splitters in the past, which is when we're talking about mixed belt speeds. So with a regular splitter, if you have, say, let's see here. We have a Mark 5 belt coming in. Mark 5 belt going out. Say that's the spine of the system, right? And then a Mark 1 belt going into a machine. And if you have a bunch of products going down here, they're not going to get equally distributed, right? Because we're going to have up to 780 worth of product hitting this splitter, and this can only accept 60 per minute. So what happens is product comes in, it checks for an opening. We'll say straight is next. It goes, all right, you can accept a screw. All right, screw goes off. Checks to the right. This belt's empty. All right, this is next in line, round robin. We give that one a screw. Is this one open? because there's nothing here, right? It checks round robin, left, nope, no belt. All right, let's check front again, round robin. Can accept a screw, yes. Look over here, round robin. No, it can't, because this belt is so slow, the screw that it received previously is still on its way out. It's still in the way. So it skips it, round robins on, and then ends up putting more here. So more screws, or whatever products are, end up going down the faster belt because we have a mixed belt output. Normally that's not a problem like in a manifold, because you're distributing between multiple machines anyway, and you want them to kind of pass by and distribute more evenly. But in this scenario, we don't want that to happen. The smart splitter is still round robin, so if we have too many screws coming in at once, right now it's not a problem because we're at equilibrium, but at the beginning we had a boatload of screws coming in faster than our plate because of the production rates and whatnot, the order of production, and we had screws that were running across because this was a Mark 1 belt or a Mark 2 belt, and this was a Mark 4 coming in. This couldn't take in enough, and we had screws overflowing even before this was filled up. And that became a problem as it got down the line, and these just, the input belts just couldn't accept the screws fast enough, and we had a ton of screws overflowing and going into the garbage. So that's something that we can't have. Now, it wouldn't be too big of a deal once it's gotten into equilibrium, but it would still happen. It would still round robin because the input is faster than the feed line into the machines. So I had to go back through here and I had to upgrade all the feed lines to the same pace as the master line that's coming in. And that solves the problem entirely. So that's just something that I wanted to mention, that if you do this crazy one belt rules them all strategy, which we are using now back at the warehouse, you need to make sure that the output belts are all the speed of, are all the same. They don't have to be the same speed as the input belt. They have to be the same speed as all the output belts. So, we've eaten enough products here to go down to a Mark III. We need to make sure this is a Mark III as well. All right, let's get back to the base, because we're eating up a lot of time just rambling on about stuff. All right, so all the logistics more or less are addressed at this point. We have a pipe. It's hiding back here, somewhere under here. See it right there? That's going to be our nitrogen. We still have not turned on the extra 2 heavy modular frame manufacturers. That's okay. We'll get to that. That's just running some belts. Right now we don't have the trains running yet, bringing in the extra supplies. So I'll deal with that in a bit. No, I want to get to the thing that we're actually doing today, which is, building the building for the Fused Modular Frames. Now, this won't be a terribly complex building because it's going to mimic the, kind of theme that we have going here. Originally, when I mathed all this out, it was to produce 5 manufactured or 5 blenders worth of Fused Modular Frames. I've since decided to go down to 4. Now, we are producing enough materials for 5. That's not a problem. It's just that it's putting a pretty severe strain on our aluminum products, our aluminum casings. And we still have heat sinks to do in the future, which are going to require them as well. And I want to give us a little bit of breathing room. So we're going to go down to 4 machines, and that's fine. We probably don't even need more than that anyway. And I think we're going to build them over here. I was thinking about putting them down there, which would make sense because the blenders are the blenders are the same width as a manufacturer. And since we have 4 manufacturers in each of these, they would fit perfectly right along that way. But we'd have to cut down that tree, and I really don't want to. Now, we might have to in the future, but I think we're going to try to do it right here. And similar problem, tree. But I think we can build around it. Let's get a little creative. Do something that's kind of like, placing here and here, and then that little tree right there is going to have to go. That way we can do a facing thing like that. So something like that, and then wrap them in a building that has the same design. I think it's going to be probably just fine. I mean, I'll move these a little bit, but we could save this and poke a hole through the roof, and then this will come out nice and neatly right up at the front so that we can mimic the front of this one. I think that's going to work out pretty well for us. I also want to have the top of these showing, so we might have to shorten the, oh, maybe not. It might come out perfect. Oh, that might be just right. Because I want to do, I want them poking just through. I don't think that's gonna work. It's looking a little bit too high. It is. All right. So we'll get creative. We can do, you know, like half heights, but I want to be able to see, you know, I want it to look like the roof is wrapped around the machines, and we can see, you know, the gas processing inside there. So we will do something a little bit different on this. So the height will probably be a little bit different, but we'll see how that comes out. I'm going to build it real quick. There's no real purpose for a time lapse on this. We can already envision what it's going to look like, and I think we've probably eaten up enough time as it is, and we still have to set up the trains and all that stuff. So let me get this built real quick. Like, we'll plug everything in, we'll set up our trains, and we'll watch the first Fused Modular Frames come off the line. All right, the building is more or less done. It's pretty packed in there. So the blenders don't mirror each other perfectly like some of the other machines do, but I don't really mind this. You know, they're not lined up, but I'm okay with that. I'm actually quite okay with that. It gives a little bit more of a visual difference and breaks it up breaks up the roof a little bit more. We were able to preserve the tree. Even got a little walkway going around it. And we just need to connect up a few things, but we can't start it up yet because we don't have nitrogen coming here. And we don't have those other things turned on, although we don't need them, you know, necessarily for now to get this up and running. But we're going to get our trains going so we can have nitrogen coming in and everything else. And I just kind of want to show you guys you know, we don't need to go to the places where they're at. We can do them from anywhere. And we're going to do them from right here. I think we're going to wait for that train to leave. That way we know this station's open. We really just need any open piece of track. We don't actually need a station. Let's take a look at the names of the stations we're going to need. So home mid is going to be our solid goods, and our fluid goods will be home right. If you could just go ahead and move along, please. All right. Hopefully we have the materials on us we need to make a couple of trains. Oh, we are not going to have enough. We're going to have not enough motors. That's all right. We'll grab them in a quick second. Fluid. So freight cars work either way, fluid or freight. And I'm just going to put 2 on there because that's all it's going to do. I don't want to interact with the station. Give me the train, please. Train, thank you. This is going to be our nitrogen train. We're going to have it stop at home right, which is here. And then we're going to have it go to nitrogen. So load nothing, unload only nitrogen. We're not using the canisters, we're using gas. Save, and then over here we're going to do the same, though in reverse. Save, save, turn it on. All right. Let's also paint it real quick, like. Paint. You can't see it right now, but those are getting painted as well. All right, so that should go away and give us, you know, bring back our nitrogen that we need. And we need Need some motors. Fortunately, right here's our supply train. Motors, thank you. Copy. The air train is pulled out, which is nice. And likewise, we are only going to need 2 here, and we're missing steel pipes. Way to be prepared. Oh, and we're out of steel pipes. Hang on a second. Let me fly over here. All right. One more. Excellent. And we are starting with home mid. Not there. There it is. And we're going to, it's probably just called encased beams. It is. I haven't renamed it to reflect the new products, but that's okay. Encased beams. And I mentioned, I marked it as west because it's on the west side of the map in case we did more elsewhere. So here we are going to unload 2 products. Modular frames. And encased industrial beams. And then here we are doing the opposite. And always remember to hit save twice. You hit save on that one, and then you hit save on this one. I have many times saved the first one and then just canceled out, not realizing it, and not actually saved all my changes. So that's going to start moseying along. I'll repaint that one later. And while we wait for the nitrogen to get here, let's hook up the last 2 stations, or last 2 manufacturers over here. You can see we also put down a storage bin, or a, whatever you want to call it, a fluid container to store up some more of that nitrogen. Shouldn't be necessary. Also, off camera, I've done the math on the other bits to make sure that we have enough coming in, like the steel pipes and the concrete. We have plenty. So let's all right, I believe that constitutes all 4 machines now up and running. We have a giant ton of all this stuff stocked up in the warehouse, so we're not worried about how soon the train gets here. All we need now is nitrogen gas. And why is that an empty belt? That's a bad sign. Whoop. I'll figure that out. Well, off camera. Worry about that off camera. Something ran out. All right, we're just waiting for our first nitrogen train. I didn't bother putting Mark II pipes because we're not using, even the 300, much less the 600. So these are going to remain full most of the time. Again, we don't need nearly the amount of nitrogen that we are producing, and that's fine. Here it comes. It's kind of weird seeing that small of a train. In fact, right underneath us is, yeah, the other supply train. But seeing a train with only 2 cars in the back of it, most of our trains have 5. So it's just a little weird seeing that small of a train. If we ever need to double duty that train at some point, we can. Because the round trip to here, while it takes a while, again, just bringing all this in, it's going to take forever to go through all this. Oh no, not autosave, not right now. Bad timing. Okay, finally free of the autosave, and the nitrogen is flowing. Let's get back to the building. Hopefully I didn't mess anything up. We have the nitrogen running all under the platform, of course. And down there, we had to put a little lip down here so that it would fit between the belts. We didn't want any clippage. So the fill rate, there we go. So we know it's going here. It's not going to fill up anytime soon because it's got to hit all of these machines. And I've left the roof off just because I wouldn't be able to show you the inside of the building. But let's connect everything up. Hopefully we've not messed up anything. A Mark III belt here. Mark III belt there. There's a little Mark I belt right there. Do believe that is 100% of everything. Just need to see some of that sweet nitrogen come through. Well, it's not in any hurry to get here. But all the pipes, the pipes have to kind of fill up together. So once the pipes get filled up, this will not be a problem. But everything else is coming in properly, and we can see the nitrogen gas is coming in. So we should be good to go. Let's just hang out here for a moment and watch some Fused Modular Frames finally come off the line. And there we go, we finally have one coming off the line. And the nitrogen gas is starting to fill up much more quickly because the pipes and everything behind it are getting full. So that's not going to be a problem at all. And there is our very first Fused Modular Frame. I'm going to pick it up. There, we're going to enshrine that somewhere. But this will go across into this building, and it's just going to meld with the heavy modular frames on this belt, and then they'll be sorted out at the end there and then go up into the warehouse. And we have a red light. Why do we have a red light? Because that's not configured. Copy, paste, paste. Are they powered? They're not even powered. That will help out a little bit. All right, we're done. We're done with all that. So we're gonna head back to the base. I don't know what's supposed to be on this belt. Probably rubber. I'll investigate that later. Anyway, let's get home and wrap this up. All right, another major milestone wrapped up. The Fused Modular Frames. It is such a large project to get those up and running because they take so much stuff from lower in the pyramid, and not just stuff, but stuff that's very useful and therefore used in many other situations. So I'm glad to finally have that up and running, and those are heading off to the warehouse now. I have the whole thing set up to go back to the warehouse. Also, in case you're curious, with the whole rubber issue, we noticed the empty belt. I did some investigating, and well, actually while I was investigating, the game crashed and I had to reload it, and then I had to redo a bunch of the stuff we've already done. But in the process, I discovered the problem. You see, when we were setting up the train to pick up the encased industrial beams and the modular frames, the train before it, we had checked it to make sure it wasn't going to, take in the stuff that we wanted it to take, and not, deliver, or not put in like quick wire into those stations. And it turns out that that train was supposed to be picking something up, and we had set it to none. Yeah, it was supposed to be picking up the compacted coal that goes to the turbo fuel facility that makes the rubber and the plastic. So, we got saved by our tower of power because the turbo fuel plant was shut down. But I hopefully got that all up and running again. And it's going to take a little bit of time for the rubber to get caught up because we're using most of the rubber that we're producing between a couple different locations. But that's fine. The problem has been identified and has been addressed. So that should be fine. All right. We're going to call it. Thank you so very much for coming out. I don't know what we're doing in our next episode because, again, we're running out of projects. And we'll probably look to unlock maybe another tier. Or I think we also unlocked heat sinks, so maybe we'll work on those. I don't know. We'll figure things out as we go. Just loving playing this game and loving making these episodes. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it as, at least nearly as much as I am. So thank you very much for coming out. Thank you for watching. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment. Love to hear from you. And subscribe if you haven't. But I will catch you guys in the next episode.